There any hope for such a child? He shoots ants with a water pistol, watching hundreds of ants scurrying away. He even gave them a kick, and that's not all. He even took a hose and flushed it, flooding the whole anthill. Why is he so cruel at such a young age? So this kid, he's been bullied since he was a kid. Every time he was bullied by a bully, he would turning his hatred on the ants. But he didn't know, there was one ant he didn't step on. Wasn't just a bug, it was a sorcerer. Looking at the devastation, this ant shaman vowed to make the bear pay. Late that night, the sorcerer took a death squad. He infiltrated the bear's room. He crawled up to his ear, and poured a drop into his ear. Lightning and thunder. When the bear woke up, he has become a tiny little kid the size of an ant. The trousers he wore before were dozens of times bigger than him. The kid was terrified. Then, he saw the ant wizards who had made him small. The ants carried him away, all the way over the hills and mountains, to the anthill he had destroyed so many times. They pushed him down in one fell swoop. The anthill was like a mysterious Cthulhu world. The huge caterpillars that graze it, a million-meter queue of ants, and an altar where countless ants are gathered. This is the Council of Ants, and they have brought the child here. The purpose is to judge him. The ants propose to eat the child, but the real judge is the queen. She emerges from behind her wings, like a goddess. She said it was easy to destroy. It's hard to nurture people, but it's the nurturing that leads to a better future. So her verdict was, let the child live with the ants, until he becomes a real ant, and only then will he be free. A good mother ant volunteered to educate him, and so, the child is left in the colony. The young ants are trained to forage for food every day. The child is also thrown into the mix. At first, except for the kind ants, no one liked him. The grass is full of danger. There's a patch full of shards of glass. The sun shone down to create many focused spots of light. The sun shines and turns the bugs to dust. The ants are also attacked by a swarm of bees. They've come for the caterpillars. Scary moments. The ants pull the child away. The ants begin to fight the bees. They lift 10 times their weight in stones and throw them, and smash the bees down. In the confusion, the bees have set their sights on the child. The ants stand alone to protect him. She stands up alone to protect him. But the child did not help. He ran off on his own. In the grass, the child was targeted by another bee. Luckily he found a small firecracker, wisely using the glass crumbs on the ground, focusing on the sun's rays, igniting the fuse of the firecracker. The bee was blown away. And that's it. The bees retreat. The ants pay homage to the child. For the first time, he gets recognition. The ant's food is a green ball. The child tries a bite. Oops. The flavor is delicious. He gobbles it up, but after eating it, he realizes it's called honeydew, from the caterpillar. After the caterpillar has sucked up the plant sap, the unwanted sugar is excreted from the body, even if it becomes a delicacy for the ants. Next, the ants take him on a tour of the Ants History Museum. This is a record of the ants' past. When they come to a huge portrait, the ants all bow down to pay their respects. This is the mother of ants, and next to the mother of ants, there is a picture of evil. They call it the Twain. It is said that whenever the Twain passes by, there would be death, and the child immediately recognized. This man was the exterminator who had come to him the other day. He had signed an exterminator contract with him. To protect the ants, he had to cancel the appointment, so he encouraged a few of his fellow ants to go home with him to find some fructose. But when he got home, everything was different. The huge, coarse wool carpet. It was almost impossible for the ants to get through. The boy has come up with an idea. Using flower petals as gliding wings, using the fan as a boost to the airflow, to fly into the kitchen. And sure enough, they found the fudge. Meanwhile, the boy tried to call an exterminator, but the phone was too big. He pressed the wrong button. Wrong number to call. He didn't know it yet. Late that night, they returned to the anthill. The ant wizard learned of their actions, became even more angry with the children, taking his companions into danger. So selfish and self-serving. Unforgivable. He scolded the child and sent him away with a vengeance. Back at the anthill, the wizard told his companions about it, but the others criticized him, that he was the one who was selfish and self-serving, that he had ignored everyone's efforts. Everyone was trying to educate the child. He was the only one bullying him. This made the wizard regret it. The other ants had gone out to look for the child. At this point, the child comes to the pond alone. A beetle appeared beside him. He was greeted by a beetle, but the next moment the beetle disappeared. What happened? Oh no, there's a monster in the pond. It's a frog. It's bouncing like crazy. It has an extremely long tongue. It's like a giant frog on the move. The child runs away from it. On the way, they meet their mates. The ants quickly climb up a can. The child has not yet learned to climb the wall. He can't get up there. Finally, the frog eats them. The frog already has 3 worms in its belly, and a smiling guy. Well, there's only one head left. We're all chatting and waiting to die. And just then, another guy gets swallowed up. Ha! It was the ant wizard, so it came to save the child. He had brought an emetic, and when the frog took it, it worked instantly, and they all vomited. One of the flies flew around happily, and it was eaten by other frogs. This time there was no one left to save it. After all this, the boy thanked the wizard for saving him, and he was able to make peace with him. In this way, the boy finally understood what he had done wrong. He repented, and he grew. The next day, the pest control expert came. He came to exterminate the whole lawn. The boy rushed back to the anthill to tell everyone the bad news, and confesses his faults. He volunteered for the war, to join the front line, but the ants alone can't defeat the exterminators. The boy decided to take his chances, to the territory of the ants' enemies, the bees, to negotiate an alliance with them. By this time the bees have lost many of their companions. They agreed to the alliance, so the ants equipped themselves with a potion to make them smaller. Then, like warplanes, the bees, they charged at the pest control expert. The man was well equipped. The charge was instantly fatal, and when he finally broke through the smoke, only to find he was wearing headphones. He can't get the potion in. The kid finds a chance to jump on top of the exterminator's head. The place is full of dandruff-eating head lice. The exterminator scratches his head. He shakes the kid off. Ant rushes up to save him, but the exterminator knocks him away with him. When they land on the ground, the bee pinned her down, unable to move. The bees are also badly injured. In the distance, the insecticide spray hits. 3 people's lives are at stake. At this moment, the boy didn't run away like he did before. Instead, he stayed behind. He doesn't want to abandon his friends again. His eyes grew steadfast. The spirit of the ant finally awakens in his heart. He lifts the bee, which weighs 10 times as much as he does. This is the power of the ant. They run along. The boy keeps carrying the bee to a high wall. This time, he too climbs the vertical wall. He learns to climb the wall as well as the ants. When they are safely down, they think of a new way. They put the miniaturizing potion on the bee's tail stinger. The exterminator leans over to reveal his weakness. They stabbed it into him. Finally, the potion took effect. The bad guy shrinks to a tiny gnome, no longer able to lift any weapon. The bees stung and ran away. And after that, the ants approved of the child, and his punishment was over. The wizard gave a potion of recovery, and made the child human again. Now, he is no longer the coward he once was. When the bully reappeared, he stood firm and confronted him. With his courage, the boy, he managed to turn the bully's men against him, and together they drove the bully away. What was once the greatest pain, now easily solved, and made new friends, all thanks to the ants' teachings. The end. The child poured all the fruit sugar in the house, and poured it all out to the ants. All this is recorded in the history of the ants.